Most people look for answers outside themselves. They wonder what they can do to be more desired, more admired, more indispensable in the lives of others. But Carl Jung taught us that true transformation doesn't start outside. It begins in the deepest part of our being. It's not about changing to please someone else, but about discovering who you really are and becoming the woman no one wants to lose. Not because she fits an external ideal, but because her presence is unique, authentic, and powerful. From his work in analytical psychology, Jung revealed that everything we experience in the outer world is a reflection of our inner self. Relationships, encounters, opportunities, and even losses aren't mere coincidences. They're manifestations of our psyche. If you've ever felt like you attract the wrong people, that you try too hard in a relationship that bears no fruit, or that you face repetitive patterns leading to disappointment, it's not by chance. It's a sign that there's something in your unconscious you haven't yet discovered. The women no one wants to lose aren't those desperately seeking validation or love from the outside. They're the ones who have integrated their shadow, faced their fears, and found within themselves everything they seek externally. But how do you get there? The first key is self-knowledge. Jung said, "He who looks outward dreams. He who looks inward awakens." In a world that pushes us to find answers on social media, in others' advice, or in society's imposed standards, few dare to look at themselves honestly. Without that introspection, building authentic, lasting relationships is impossible. Ask yourself, what wounds do you carry inside that you haven't healed? What fears stop you from genuinely connecting with others? The key to being a woman no one wants to lose isn't in changing to fit in. It's in healing what has kept you disconnected from your essence. The unconscious is a mirror of everything we don't want to see in ourselves. If you find yourself in relationships where you feel you have to try too hard, you might be projecting a need for approval you haven't resolved. If you attract people who don't value you, perhaps deep down you believe you're not enough. Jung taught that only when we become aware of these projections can we start to change them. The second key is integrating the shadow. Jung discovered that within each of us lies a hidden part made up of all the emotions, thoughts, and desires society has taught us to suppress. The shadow holds our fears and insecurities, but also our greatest source of power. Think of those moments when you felt anger, envy, or sadness. Most people try to ignore these emotions because they think they're negative. But Jung showed us that every emotion has a message. If you feel jealous of someone, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means there's a desire within you that you haven't acknowledged. If someone's attitude frustrates you, maybe it reflects a part of yourself you haven't accepted. The woman no one wants to lose isn't the one who pretends to be perfect. It's the one who has integrated her shadow. She's learned to recognize her emotions without judgment, understanding that everything she feels is part of her humanity. In doing so, she stops reacting from insecurity and starts acting from awareness. A person who has integrated their shadow doesn't need to manipulate, force love, or beg for attention. Her energy is naturally magnetic. She doesn't fear expressing her thoughts or setting boundaries because she knows her worth doesn't depend on external validation. But integrating the shadow isn't easy. It takes courage. It means facing what makes us most uncomfortable about ourselves and turning fear into self-knowledge. Without this integration, we stay trapped in the same patterns, repeating the same relationships, feeling unsatisfied without knowing why. The third key is authenticity. In a society that constantly pushes us to fit in, being authentic is an act of bravery. Jung explained that many people live behind a mask, what he called the persona, the image we show the world. But behind that mask hides our true self, which we sometimes suppress out of fear of rejection. And how many times have you felt you had to act a certain way to be accepted? How many times have you held back what you really wanted to say, afraid of how others would react? Jung taught that the further we stray from our authenticity, the more we disconnect from our own power. The women no one wants to lose are those who have found freedom in being themselves. They don't try to please everyone because they know their true essence will attract the right people. They're not afraid to show vulnerability because they understand that genuine connection only happens when we're real. The moment you stop performing to please others and start living from your authenticity, something shifts. Your energy transforms. The people who truly resonate with you begin to appear in your life. Most importantly, you stop feeling the need to hold on to someone because you know that whoever is meant to be in your life will stay by choice, not obligation. The fourth key is emotional awareness. Jung explained that emotional dependence arises when we believe we need someone else to feel complete. But the truth is, no one can fill the voids that only we can heal. When we seek security, love, or happiness from someone else, we're giving away our power. Before moving on, I want to mention that my book is now available. It's full of tips and techniques to help you overcome emotional blocks and love yourself more. Find the link in the description and pinned comment. Let's continue. The woman no one wants to lose has learned to find within herself everything she seeks in others. This doesn't mean she doesn't need love or companionship. It means her well-being doesn't depend on it. She's learned to enjoy her own company, to build a life full of purpose and satisfaction. Paradoxically, this emotional independence makes her even more attractive. The strongest bonds aren't based on need, but on choice. When someone feels you're with them, not because you need them, but because you truly choose them, the connection becomes far more powerful. That's why the deepest, most lasting relationships are those where both people are whole on their own. When you don't seek someone to save you, but share your life from a place of fullness, connections become more genuine and fulfilling. The fifth key is the power of projection. Jung discovered that what we perceive in others is a reflection of our own unconscious. What we admire in someone else are aspects of ourselves we haven't fully developed. Likewise, what bothers us in others is often a part of our shadow we haven't integrated. When you feel a deep attraction to someone, it's not just about their looks or personality. It's because they represent something your unconscious recognizes as valuable or necessary for your growth. Similarly, if you feel rejection or irritation towards someone, that emotion isn't about them. It's about what they awaken in you. Imagine you're in a relationship where you feel unvalued. You might think the problem is the other person, that they just don't know how to appreciate what you offer. But Jung would say this experience is a projection of the lack of value you place on yourself. If deep down you don't believe you're enough, you'll attract people who mirror that belief. Not because the universe wants to punish you, but because your unconscious is trying to show you what needs healing. That's why women who have worked on self-knowledge and shadow integration rarely attract relationships where they're undervalued or ignored. They've learned to see their own worth, and that worth is reflected in how others treat them. The power of projection also shows us our growth opportunities. If someone in your life frustrates you or makes you feel insecure, instead of reacting emotionally, pause and ask, what part of me is reflected here? What is my unconscious trying to show me? When you do this exercise honestly, you realize every relationship and experience has a deeper purpose than you imagine. The sixth key is trust in synchronicity. Jung spoke of synchronicity as those moments when everything seems to align almost magically. The right people appear at the perfect time, arriving effortlessly, and the answers you've been seeking seem to manifest out of nowhere. But synchronicity isn't coincidence. It's the result of living in alignment with your truth. When you've worked on self-knowledge, integrated your shadow, and learned to trust your intuition, the outer world begins to reflect that inner transformation. If you've noticed you constantly end up in situations that cause stress, anxiety, or distrust, Jung would say it's not bad luck. It's a sign something inside you needs to be seen. Life isn't a random pile of events. It's a mirror of our inner state. When a woman learns to trust synchronicity, she stops forcing relationships that don't flow naturally. She lets go of clinging to people who aren't aligned with her path. She knows the universe will always guide her toward what's best for her, as long as she's willing to release what no longer serves her. This doesn't mean everything will be easy or that she'll never face challenges. But when you live from awareness, every obstacle stops being a barrier and becomes a chance to grow. Women like this don't waste time worrying about the future or regretting the past. They know every experience, no matter how tough, is a key piece in their evolution. The seventh key is the ability to let go. Jung said suffering comes when we cling to what has already served its purpose in our lives. We hold on to relationships that hurt us, beliefs that limit us, versions of ourselves we've outgrown. But true growth happens when we have the courage to let go. Letting go doesn't mean giving up or stopping the fight for what we want. It means recognizing when something no longer adds value, when a relationship drains us more than it nourishes, when a situation holds us back from moving forward. Women who understand the power of letting go don't cling to relationships that no longer resonate with them. They don't beg for love, attention, or recognition because they know what's truly theirs will never need to be forced. They trust that by letting go, they're making space for something better. Letting go is one of the hardest acts, but also one of the most liberating. When you release what no longer serves you, you reclaim your energy, your peace, your power. You learn to move through life lightly, without unnecessary burdens or baseless fears. In that state, you become a woman no one wants to lose. Not because you try to be, but because your presence is a pure manifestation of authenticity and fullness. When you integrate these keys into your life, you realize transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's an ongoing process of self-knowledge, integration, and growth. But with every step, with every layer you shed, you get closer to the most authentic, powerful version of yourself. The greatest gift you can give yourself is the freedom to be who you truly are. There's no greater attraction than a woman comfortable in her own skin, unafraid to show her truth, living from a place of fullness. When you reach that point, you realize you don't need anyone to choose you, because you've learned to choose yourself first. When a woman learns to choose herself, she stops seeking outside what's always been within her. Jung explained that many of our relationships are just reflections of our own inner relationship. If someone feels they need external validation to feel worthy, they'll attract situations and people that reinforce that sense of lack. But when a woman has worked on self-knowledge and integrated her shadow, her energy shifts completely. She no longer enters relationships from need, but from fullness. This translates into something powerful. Her presence becomes something no one wants to lose. Not because she manipulates, not because she tries to be desirable, but because her authenticity is magnetic. This happens because consciously or unconsciously, humans seek what's real, what's genuine, what radiates security and peace. It's easy to spot someone who has worked on themselves. You see it in how they move, in the calm way they make decisions, in how they set boundaries without guilt or fear. Their presence doesn't need explanation or justification. Their energy speaks for itself. A woman who has understood this stops fearing solitude. She realizes her worth isn't tied to her relationship status or the number of people around her. Instead, she chooses who she shares her energy with. Not everyone gets access to her inner world because she's learned to discern which connections are worth it and which only steal her peace. But this isn't something achieved overnight. It's a process that takes patience, commitment, and above all, honesty with yourself. Jung said our greatest responsibility is to know ourselves deeply because only then can we live authentically. For many, this journey begins in chaos, in toxic relationships, disappointments, moments of crisis where we start questioning what we really want and need. Though these moments can be painful, they're also chances to rebuild from a stronger place. Maybe you've been through experiences where you felt you gave too much, tried harder than you should have, or attempted to save something not meant to last. But none of it was in vain. Every one of those situations brought you to this moment where you have the chance to do things differently. When you start living from this awareness, everything changes. You stop seeing losses as failures and begin to understand them as liberations. Every relationship that ends, every path that closes, is an opportunity to redirect your energy toward what's truly aligned with you. And in that moment, you realize something incredible. You never lost anything. You were just making space for what truly belongs to you. People who have learned to live from this place of authenticity don't beg for love, don't plead for attention, and don't fear being alone. They know solitude isn't a burden. It's a gift. It's a time for reconnection, growth, preparation for what's to come. When you stop acting from fear and start acting from self-love, you realize everything you need is within you. In that state, you become the woman no one wants to lose. Not because you seek it, but because your essence is so free, so authentic, so powerful, that whoever has the privilege of being by your side knows it's a gift. That's where true transformation happens. Not when you seek to be chosen, but when you choose yourself. Not when you try to fit into someone else's life, but when you build a life that truly inspires you. Not when you wait for someone else to make you happy, but when you discover happiness is something born within you and reflected in everything you touch. This is the path Jung taught us, a path of self-knowledge, integration, transformation. It's not the easiest, but it's the only one that leads to true fullness. In that fullness, you become someone impossible to forget. Because what's authentic, what's real, what comes from a place of truth, leaves an eternal mark on the souls of those fortunate enough to encounter it. This is the moment to ask yourself, are you willing to let go of everything you're not to discover who you really are? If the answer is yes, get ready, because what's coming for you is a level of life, love, and connection you've never imagined. When you decide to let go of all that you're not, something wonderful happens. You start to feel free, free from external expectations, free from the need to fit in, free from relationships that don't add to your life. In that state, you realize it was never about changing to please someone else. It was about remembering who you truly are and letting yourself live from that truth without fear. Jung taught us that real transformation doesn't happen when we try to fit into others' molds, but when we dare to be radically authentic. When a woman allows herself to be herself, without filters or pretenses, she radiates an energy that's not only magnetic, but unforgettable. Because true beauty isn't in perfection, it's in authenticity. Maybe right now, you're in a process of change, awakening, questioning many things. Perhaps you felt the need to let go of certain relationships, patterns, or beliefs that no longer serve you. And though it might feel hard at first, I want you to remember something. What's truly yours will never need to be forced. When you live from your truth, the world responds. The right people show up, opportunities appear, and situations start aligning in your favor. Not because you're trying to manipulate fate, but because you're finally in harmony with your essence. That's the key to becoming the woman no one wants to lose. Not because you seek to be, but because your authenticity holds your greatest power. Now, I want you to do something important. If this message resonated with you, if at any point in this video you felt you were hearing exactly what you needed right now, leave a comment below. Tell me what impacted you most. What part of this message made you reflect? What decision you're ready to make to start living from your truth? Your words could make a difference for someone else watching this video. Together, we can create a space where more women find the strength to transform, to free themselves, to shine without fear. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the content we're preparing. Every time you comment, share, or engage, this message reaches more people who need it. Remember, change starts within you. Don't wait for the world to give you permission to be who you are. Claim your power, trust your path, and become that version of yourself already inside you, waiting to be discovered. See you in the next video, and don't forget, the world needs more people who dare to be authentic. Are you ready to take that step? I'll read you in the comments.